So guys, welcome to this first Zoom of the online international online master's degrees in communication and education. I'm Albert Sarabi. I will be your coordinator during this year. This is the second year I've been working as a coordinator for this master. I myself studied tourism. I did the tourism degree, and then I got a master's degree in travel journalism. So this master's is a little bit far from what I'm really specialized, but it's interesting. I learned a lot last year, so I'm really happy to welcome you to this first session. So, as I was telling you before, what are we going to do this first session is like a small introduction about the course. So maybe if you can present yourselves like really short and basic, and maybe say what you studied and why are you interested in this course, and what are your expectations about this course. I don't know if we have any volunteer here, so he or she wants to start. Maybe Stephen. Yeah,
I can go. Yeah. All right.
thank you.
Thanks, Albert. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Kumar. I'm currently based out of Vancouver, Canada, British Columbia, Canada. I work in the education space. I've been, working with universities for over a decade now. I have studied philosophy in my undergrad, and later studied business management in my at a postgrad level. And the degree, I mean, I wanted to study communication and education as in the way, I wanted to gain more perspective and learnings so that I can actually use it in my sort of the nature of work that I do, and also to kind of have more perspective as to how education generally is evolving. I do think that getting back to studies will help me in some ways. So this is the reason I'm looking forward to being part of this group.
Wow, thank you, Stephen. So interesting. Who else? Maybe He Liang. I don't know if he can hear us.
Yeah. Can
Yeah.
you hear
So
me?
yes, perfectly. Yes.
I lost the connection with you for several minutes, so I did not
Okay.
catch. I did not catch it.
Yeah. We are asking you to introduce yourself for your classmates and for the teacher.
Yeah. My name is He Liang. I'm from the Xi'an city of People's Republic of China. Now I open a company in Singapore. So I travel from Singapore to China and some countries in Southeast Asia. I am dealing with the synthetic rubber trading. Uh, because after my graduation from my university, I worked as a working assistant in a local university in Xi'an for 1 year. Though till now I haven't been engaged in educational field, but I am quite interested in this field, and that's why I would like to continue my uh, learning in education and communication course here. Yeah,
Nice. Thank you, Helian. And
thank
we hope
you.
after your degree you can start working full time in the field of education and communication.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who else? Maybe Georgie or Lily?
Sure, I can do it, but I actually cannot turn my camera on today because I'm a little bit sick.
Okay,
So
no problem.
yeah, I have that's actually my second master because my first master was in Russia in about communication. Now I'm also doing the PhD in anthropology at the UAB. And since my PhD is connected to kids at schools, I think it would be nice to broaden my knowledge in the field of education because I have never been connected to like the field of education before. as like a educator or something like that. No. So it's gonna be an interesting ride for me just to get a deep dive into education, see how education and communication are connected, and it would be great for me to actually have some kind of a knowledge or insights after this masters to create some kind of a product for kids who move to Catalonia and they don't speak Spanish or Catalan, and they still
Mhm.
have to somehow manage to navigate the whole educational curriculum system and stuff like that. So we'll see.
Okay, really, really interesting. I see a lot of different profiles here. Thank you, Georgie. Lily, if you want to introduce yourself.
Okay. Hello everyone. Hello Abbott. I'm Lily. I'm from Guangzhou of China, and I have graduated about more than 10 years. Actually, in my former university, my major is education. But after my graduate, I haven't choose to be a teacher, and I have cooperate with my friends to open a company, and I want to. The main reason why I want to choose to study education again is I mainly love in education, and I want to learn more more professional knowledges about education from UAB. That's my the reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. I hope you, I hope you do, and you get all the knowledge and acquaintance you need. And finally, we have, I think it's finally, yeah. Finally, we have Nina. Good afternoon, Nina. Nanny, sorry, Nanny. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still trying to learn all your names.
That's okay. Hi, my name is Neni Brahmana, and I'm originally come from Indonesia. I studied film and arts back home, and then I got involved with some NGOs working on media campaigns, focus on women's rights and child trafficking. And after a few years, I moved to Germany, where I did internship, and yeah, and then I work as an educator in Germany. And I recently moved to Spain about 4 months ago.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm excited to kick off this new chapter. And yeah, therefore, I decided this master because I certainly believe that media and education are actually intertwined. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm looking forward to learn from each of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nanny. And where exactly are you living in Spain? Here in Barcelona or
I live in Madrid.
in Madrid? Okay. Are you enjoying Madrid and Spain?
Well, compared to Germany, I enjoy it a lot because of the weather.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I love it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So thank you all that we have really, really interesting profiles here. A lot of people from Asia that it's not really a usual thing. We used to have more people from the States and South America, so it's really, really interesting this year, I think. Um, Before we start the course and we introduce our professor for today's session, I don't know if some of you maybe have any questions about the curriculum or the working plan for this first module or something you want to ask before we start. You can always reach us through WhatsApp and through mail for sure, but maybe we can take this opportunity to ask something, you can do it whenever you want. So now we are going to introduce our first professor, Dr. Samy Tayie. Thank you, Samy, for your time. He is the chief of the Arab chapter of the UNESCO Media and Information Literacy Alliance and he's also working as a professor at the Faculty of Communication at Cairo University in Egypt. He has served also as a mediator in conflict in the Nile Delta, and he's author of several articles and materials on interculturality, media literacy, and educational communication. He also holds a PhD from the Autonomous University of Barcelona with his thesis called News Literacy for a Responsible Online News Experience Against Harmful Messages. And he will be the first professors, as I said, for the first module that is called Communication and Education, Concepts and Conversions. So this is going to be like a brief, short, easy introduction about these two worlds that collide, that are communication and education. So thank you, Samy. Good afternoon, and welcome to the online master's degree in communication and education. Samy, are you there? Your micro is out. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, thank you, Samy.
Okay, good afternoon or good morning or good evening, wherever you are. My name is Samy, as Albert just mentioned. I'm going to talk you very briefly about communication, right? Here I'm going to split my brief talk into three important elements. Number one, I'm going to talk to you about the concept of human communication. And then secondly, I will talk to you about different types of human communication. And finally, I'm going to conclude by talking to you about levels of communication. When we talk about human communication, as you all know, it's an important characteristics of all human beings. We all communicate with each other. We all share information with each other. And when we talk about human communication, we can easily distinguish two important types of human communication. We have what we call linguistic or verbal communication, and secondly, we have what we call non-verbal or non-linguistic communication. When we talk about verbal communication or linguistic communication, it is mainly the communication which is conducted with the use of language, whether it is a spoken language, a written language, or an audiovisual language. So therefore, this is what we call the verbal or linguistic communication. And then on the other hand, we have what we call the non-verbal or non-linguistic communication. And here we talk about, the signs of body, movement of body, signs of face and facial expressions. That's what we may call the body language. This is also another type of human communication. So these are mainly what we call the two types of human communication. Now, if we move to the levels of human communication, we can very easily distinguish six important levels of human communication. The first level is what we call intrapersonal communication, INTRA, intrapersonal communication. The second level is what we call interpersonal communication. Thirdly, we have what we call group communication. Fourthly, we have what we call intergroup communication. Level number five is what we call organizational or institutional communication. And finally, we have what we call mass communication, and the communication which is conducted by the use of communication technology. Let me, in order to make life easy for you, I'm going to say a few words about every and each one of these levels. The first one is what we call intrapersonal communication. And here you have a communication which occurs between a man and himself, which means that when you think, when you talk to yourself, when you try to imagine something, or when you try to understand something, this is what we call the intrapersonal communication. Briefly, it is the level of communication which includes all psychological processes which occur inside the human mind. That's what we call intrapersonal communication. Here, a communication between a man and himself. One person is communicating with himself. Level number two is what we call the interpersonal communication. When we talk about interpersonal communication, here we are going to increase the communicators. We have two persons. They are communicating to each other. And we sometimes we call this level of communication face-to-face communication because it relies mainly on face-to-face. We have to see each other, two persons communicate with each other while seeing each other. That's what we call face-to-face communication or interpersonal communication. And sometimes these interpersonal communication, it may rely on the use of machine, such as, for example, when you when you give a phone call to somebody on the other line, when you chat with somebody else, it is also considered to be a kind of interpersonal communication. But we have a term which we use for this level of communication. We call it machine assisted interpersonal communication, which means that it is a communication between two persons, but it relies mainly on the use of a machine, which could be a mobile phone, a landline, or chatting, or whatever. The third level of communication is what we call group communication. When we talk about, do you know how we define a group? A group is usually 3 persons or more. It can go up to 1,000. And these persons or these individuals, they must have things in common. They have, like a kind of, common objectives, common interests, etc. Like for example, I would call you a group. And when? Because you share a lot of things in common. You are here to study, to learn something about communication. You are looking, forward to receive a master degree, so which will help you in your career, etc. So these are common things, or things which are you are sharing with each other. That's why we call you a group. When you communicate with each other, when you talk to each other about whatever, that's what we may call intra-group communication, a communication which occurs among individuals or members of one group. Then if we move to the fourth level of communication, which is what we call the intergroup communication, here we talk about a communication, a level of communication which occurs among 2 or 3 groups. For example, sometimes in the university we organize competition. We have a group of students from the Faculty of Medicine, a group from the Faculty of AI, a group from the Faculty of Computer Science, etc. And these different groups, when they communicate each other, when they communicate with each other, when they have a competition, or when they have this kind of communication, we call it the intergroup communication. It is a communication which occurs between 2 groups or more than 2 groups, right? Then we move to the fifth level of communication, which is what we call organizational or institutional communication. And as you can see from the language, it's a communication which occurs inside an institution or inside an organization. That's why we call it organizational or institutional communication. And here we talk about actually 2 forms of communication. When we talk about institutional or organizational communication, we talk about 2 forms. These organizational or institutional communication, it may be vertical communication from top to bottom or bottom to top, and it can be horizontal communication, which means people at the same level they communicate each other. 2 professors when they communicate with each other, 2 students when they communicate with. That's what we call horizontal communication. What about the vertical one? The vertical one is usually the communication between the president or the director of the institution and uh, تدفئة. When we have these communication which comes from the director or the president of the company to the employees, it takes the form of orders or instructions. He asks them to do this or that. That's what we call a communication from top to bottom. It's a vertical communication. And at the same time, the employees, they may submit reports or suggestions or comments to the director, to the president. So these communication, it may go as well from, that's why we call it vertical, or we call it top to bottom and bottom to top level of communication. Then finally, we move to the last level of communication, which is what we call mass communication. And as you can see from the language, mass, it means a communication which is mainly directed to mass, to a big number of people, to a huge audience. When we talk about mass communication, it's we may call it a dynamic process. And this dynamic process, it's moving all the time, and we can distinguish actually four important elements in these mass communication. We have what we call the source or the communicator. And this communicator, he has some kind of information. He encode this information into a message, and that's the second element. And then he may use a medium or a channel, and that could be whatever, a newspaper, a radio, or a TV station, in order to convey his information or his message to the audience. Therefore, the four elements are communicator or the sender or the source. That's number one. Number two, the message, which means the information that the source would like to transfer to the audience. And then we have a medium. And when we talk about the medium, I'm going to talk in a minute in a little bit more detail about the medium. And then he used this medium, which is actually a channel or a communication technology, in order to reach the large audiences, which is the fourth level. Here again we have a marginal element, which was we call the feedback. The source or the communicator or the sender, he expects to receive some kind of feedback from the audience about the information which is sending to them. He would like to know whether the message or the information is sending is clear or not clear, etc. Here I'm going to stop again about the third element, which is the medium. When we talk about the medium or the channel, I think actually we can distinguish important categories of channels or two important categories of media. We have what we call the traditional media, and we have also at the same time what we call non-traditional or digital media. When we talk about traditional media, we mainly talk about three important kinds of media. We have the print media, we have radio, and we have television. Then, on the other hand, when we talk about digital or non-traditional media, we talk about the media which are becoming some kind of outcomes of the discovery of the computer and the internet, etc. That includes the social media and online platforms, etc. Let me say a few words about every and each one of these traditional media. We have the print media. When we talk about the print media, we talk about a wide range of media, which include newspapers, magazines, catalog books, brochures, posters, etc. We have a wide range of print media, but our main concern here in the business of communication is with the most important print media, which are the newspaper and the magazine. And if we go back to history, I'm going to say something about the discovery of the print media. When you talk about the print media, maybe can you give me I'm asking you a simple question. When the print media was introduced or was discovered for the first time, do you have any idea or clue about when was it discovered?
It can go thousands of years back.
Oh, thank you very much. That's actually, what else?
Come on, guys, don't be shy.
Hello? Yes, let me tell you something, the history or the starting point of the print media, it goes back to more than 7,000 years. It goes back to 5,000 years before Christ. And the first ever form of print media, it took the form of sculptures. And that was in the old Egyptian civilization. So the old pharaohs, they do not have a language. They used to use a hieroglyphic language, which was a collection of signs and drawings, etc. And they used to do these kind of things on stones, rocks, or walls of temples. They used to put them like that, and that was the first ever form of the print media that took the form of sculptures on walls, on rocks, etc. After that, 2,500 years before Christ, they discovered what we call the papyrus paper. And that was, the first ever form of papers. That was, some kind of sticks. And they open these sticks and they glue them and they make papers out of them. And it marks the beginning of documentation, the beginning of a history of documentation. It means that they start to write, and they were usually writing about the movement of stars, the harvest time, etc. All these kind of things, or prescriptions of doctors. Doctors were writing also some kind of prescription. So all these kind of things, they mark the beginning of documentation. And that was by the year 2500 before Christ. Then we move a bit faster and go to China and the Chinese civilization. And thanks to Chinese, we have the Chinese, they introduced two important discoveries. Number one, the discovery of papers, as we know of today, and the Chinese also, thanks to the Chinese civilization, we saw the first ever language, the old Chinese language. And if you see the old Chinese language, they are kind of I won't say drawings, but it was a kind of development for the old hieroglyphic language. And after that, after discovering the paper industry and after discovering the language, then it moved from China to the Arab Peninsula and then to Africa, and from Africa it goes to Europe, and that was during the Middle Ages. Then, if we go to the contemporary history of the print media, it goes back to the middle of the 15th century when Johann Gutenberg, a German guy, he discovered the printing technology. And ever since, I mean, more than 500 years ago, more than 5 centuries, we came to know about the print media as we know them today. That was, the history of the discovery or the introduction of the print media, newspapers and magazines. And as I said to you, when we talk about the print media, we talk about a wide range of print media, newspapers, magazines, posters, books, brochures, leaflets, etc. All these are considered to be some kind of print media. But our main media here are the newspapers and the magazines. Then these print media, they last with us for nearly 5 centuries. And then by the turn or by the year 1920, it marks the discovery or the introduction of radio. And radio was introduced for the first time in a city called Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania state. And the first ever broadcasting was to announce the findings or the results of the presidential election in the States. Then, 16 years later, by the year 1936, television was introduced. And the first TV was introduced by the British Broadcasting Corporation. And then it continues from 1936 until 1939. And then it stopped because of the eruption of World War II. And then it resumed again by the year 1945 after the end of World War II. And then it spread all over the world, from Britain, it was to be introduced in different parts of the world. That was, what I said to you is about what we call the traditional media, print media, including newspaper, magazine, etc. and television. And then when we talk about another category of media is what we call digital media or non-traditional media. When we talk about digital media or non-traditional media, we can here talk about two important discoveries which help the development of digital media. Number one, the discovery of the computer, and the computer, as you know, was discovered officially for the first time in 1946, right? And then it was developing fast. The first one was what we call the mainframe computer, and that was followed by the PC during the 70s and the 80s, and then before the turn of the century, by the year 90s, the laptop was introduced, and then by the turn of the 21st century, the iPad and the other, sophisticated computer were introduced. The second in the discovery which helped the development of the digital media was the introduction of the internet. And as you all know, the internet relies mainly on the technology of computer. And the first ever internet network was in 1969. It was the ARPANET. It was in the Pentagon. And the first ever internet, the first net of the internet was used mainly for military purposes. And then after using the internet, in the Pentagon, and then it moved to other countries. And the main use of the internet during the 60s and early 70s was mainly for military purposes. And then by the end of the 70s and early 80s, the internet use moved into another stage. That was the scientific use of the internet. And then at that time, the internet was seen as a kind of huge encyclopedia. So people were using the internet for information, and it was mainly, the use of the internet was mainly limited to universities and academies and scholars, etc. Then by the beginning of the 1990, we start to see another stage of the internet use, and here we saw the commercial use of the internet and the beginning of of internet access providers companies, which would provide the internet for the man in the street and for ordinary people. And then ever since, the internet start to become, more and more common, and more people were using the internet. Then by the turn of the 21st century, we start to see the interactivity and the introduction of the social media. And that's what we see now. We can see how it is fast developing and etc. These are mainly what I said was some kind of brief introduction about the concept of human communication, and the levels of human communication, types of human communication, and the different media of communication which are available for us now, whether they are traditional or non-traditional media. I think I'm not going to be heavy on you, but I'm going to stop here. And of course, I'll be more than happy to respond to any of your comments or questions. Albert.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Samy. Thank you for your time, although the connection wasn't maybe not the better one, but thank you equally. I don't know if some of you, maybe Stephen, Georgie, Lily, if you had any questions about what we were discussing now about this introductory sentence about communication, or maybe some other questions about the development of the course, this first module or something. Anything you want to share? Nothing.
Oh,
Yeah,
That
we
was
are
Samy.
already starting. Yeah, Stephen. Yeah, please.
No, this was great. I think it was a good perspective into the course. Um, Albert, like I wanted to understand the flow of how the next set of classes would be in terms of, I'm going back to your previous question you asked earlier.
Yeah.
And in the upcoming sessions, is there a fixed sort of a module sort of succession that we are going to follow as a class?
I don't think I'm not sure if I understand you, but you mean how many classes are you going to take, or how?
No,
Mm,
you talk about the materials, whether we have materials available for them.
oh yeah, sure, yes. And you had already uploaded in the virtual campus all the materials for the first 2 weeks, because I don't know. I mean, the models are 1 month long. The first 2 weeks are for independent reading, and you will have all the documents uploaded. You already have the documents uploaded on the virtual campus. Then the third week is a debate, a forum debate. So you will have a teacher that will be moderating the debate. So they will ask, he or she will be asking you a few questions, and you will have to answer. And then the fourth week is for you to complete the assignment of each model. So you will have like a first Zoom session at the beginning of the model, another one at the end of the model. But yes, you will have in advance all the documentation regarding each model. And now I don't know if you can access to the virtual campus. I think you should. Uh, but yeah, you will find there uploaded the all the documentation for these two first weeks.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, Albert. Unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to go into the student
Okay.
account yet. But I'll do that
Yeah.
today, right after.
Okay. Don't worry, but please try. And if there's any problem, please tell us, because that's really, really important, because you should submit all your activities, and everything will be uploaded on the virtual campus. Okay, I don't know if anyone else has any questions, anything you want to share. If not, as I said, well, I will send you a reminder tomorrow via mail, but we will be having another introduction session next week, so you can connect with with the rest of your classmates, with some of your teachers, and with Santiago Tejedor, that is the director of the master. So it will be another introduction session. Sorry, it was a flight. Okay, so that's all for today. It was like a more of a kickoff session, so we can meet you all. Although we will be asking for the rest of the sessions for you to turn on your cameras, please, because if not, this is quite strange. Me alone in a black screen, that's a bit strange. So for the rest of the session, please try to turn on your camera. And we know that you chose this online master, because it has some flexibility. And if you cannot attend all the online session, that's fine, because all of them will be recorded. But yes, please try to attend, because it's more interesting for us if you can connect live, and we can have like small conversation, because if not, to study an online master can be a little bit lonely sometimes. So whenever you can, please try to connect, so we can talk to each other. And that's all for my part from now. I don't know if Sammy wants to add something.
No, I think it's okay. It's fine, and I'll be more than happy to expand more with a better connection in the future,
Sure,
anytime.
sure. Yeah. Maybe we will be reconnecting on the second model. We have to talk this through too. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely it would be good if you could
Thank
have
you.
a better connection. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Albert. Thank you. And I would like to
Thank you.
apologize for any inconvenience because of bad connection.
It's okay. Thanks, Sammy. Thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all. And if any of you had any doubt, you can always write to us again on the group chat, and also through mail. And we see you next week. So enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you all again.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.